Hello and welcome. You're watching Today in Parliament with me, Aishwarya. And here are the Parliament headlines. Rajya Sabha to commence discussion on Union Budget 2020-21. Zero-hour and question-hour proceedings to be suspended for the discussion. Lok Sabha to continue further discussion on budget. Union Minister Shripad Yesso Nayak to introduce Institute of Teaching and Research in Ayurveda Bill 2020 in Lok Sabha. Bill seeks to set up an Institute of Teaching and Research in Ayurveda in Jamnagar in Gujarat. And the Direct Tax Vivad Se Vishwas Bill 2020 listed for consideration and passing in Lok Sabha. Health Minister Harshvardhan to make a statement in the lower house on government's response to coronavirus outbreak. Rajya Sabha will begin the general discussion on the union budget today. The House has decided to not take up the zero-hour and question-hour proceedings to continue discussion on the budget. And further discussion on the general budget will also continue in the Lok Sabha. And in some other legislative business, the Institute of Teaching and Research in Ayurveda Bill 2020 is listed for introduction in the lower house. Now, this bill aims to provide for the setting up of an Institute of Teaching and Research in Ayurveda in Jamnagar in Gujarat and will be introduced by Minister Shripad Yesso Nayak. And the Direct Tax Vivad Se Vishwas Bill 2020 is also listed for consideration and passing in the lower house. The bill was introduced in the Lok Sabha by Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman last week. Now, this bill aims at reducing litigations in the direct taxes payments. Under the Vivad Se Vishwas scheme announced in the union budget, the taxpayers whose tax demands are locked in dispute in multiple forums can pay the due taxes by 31st of March and get a complete waiver of interest and penalty. Under the scheme, if a taxpayer is not able to pay within the 31st of March deadline, then he gets a further time till 30th of June. But in that case, he would have to pay 10% more on the tax. Also, Union Minister Dr. Harshvardhan will make a statement regarding the government's response to novel coronavirus outbreak in China. All right, let's get all the updates. Kriti Mishra is now joining us live from Parliament. A very good morning, Kriti. Kriti, talking first about Rajya Sabha, it is a very important day because Rajya Sabha will today commence the discussion on the union budget because Nirmala Sitharaman had presented the union budget on 1st of February and the discussion has started in Lok Sabha, but it is yet to commence and we understand that there will be no question hour today. That, of course, has been suspended for the discussion to continue.
Well, that's right, Aishwarya. Remember, in the upper house, 12 hours have been allotted to discuss Union Budget 2020. So today, the discussion would commence at 11 a.m., wherein members across party lines would put forth their viewpoints. Remember, the Union Budget 2020 talked about aspirational India, the economic reforms and caring for the society. There were 16 mega action plans announced for the farmers and also for the Commerce and Industry Ministry, as well as for boosting exports in the country. There were also significant changes in the tax rules in order to put more disposable income in the hands of individuals to push income and also savings, consumption and investment. So a very important discussion that would commence on Union Budget 2020 in the upper house. And as far as the Lok Sabha is concerned, the discussion would resume. That was started by Congress MP Manish Tiwari. And there also in the lower house, the discussion would continue on Union Budget 2020. So very important discussion in both houses of Parliament.
Absolutely. And Kriti, talking about Lok Sabha, there are two important bills. Of course, one is the Vivad Se Vishwas bill that, of course, the finance minister had mentioned in her budget speech as well. And there is another bill that seeks to set up Ayurveda Institute in Jamnagar in Gujarat. Besides that, of course, Dr. Harshvardhan will make a statement as far as the coronavirus outbreak is concerned. He had given a statement in the Rajya Sabha, but today he will be doing that in the Lok Sabha. Just give us more details about the bills that are listed for introduction today.
Well, Aishwarya, a very important bill, which is Vivad Se Vishwas Direct Taxes Bill 2020, that would be taken up in the Lok Sabha. Remember, this bill has already been introduced by Finance Minister. That was announced in Union Budget 2020. The government has been reiterating that there is an urgent need to actually respect wealth creators in the country. Remember, earlier also the government brought in a similar scheme, which was Sabka Vishwas scheme, that pertained to the indirect taxes, unclogging around 1,80,000 cases that were pending, and this particular bill deals with the direct taxes around 480,000 cases are pending in Commissioner Appeals, High Court as well as Supreme Court, and also the kind of money that is involved, which is around 9 lakh crore rupees. So the government will ensure that there would be there would be further steps to ensure ease of doing business and also dispute resolution in case of direct taxes. So this is a very important bill that would be taken up in the Lok Sabha. And as you've mentioned, there's another important bill relating to the University Institute of Ayurveda. Remember, with the expansion of Ayush, this bill seeks paramount importance. And also, as you've mentioned, that Health Minister will make a statement on coronavirus in the Lok Sabha today. Aishwarya?
All right, Kriti, thank you so much for all those updates there. And now let's take a look at the other legislative business in the Rajya Sabha. Several ministers will lay today papers pertaining to their ministries on the table. Let's take a look at some of them. Prakash Javadekar for the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting. Shripad Yesso Naik for the Ministry of Defence. Kiran Rijiju for the Ministry of Youth Affairs and Sports. Mansukh Mandavia for the Ministry of Shipping. Arjun Ram Meghwal for the Ministry of Heavy Industries and Public Enterprises. Babul Supriyo for the Ministry of Environment, Forests and Climate Change. Ratan Lal Kataria for the Ministry of Jal Shakti. Pratap Chandra Sarangi for the Ministry of Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises. Union Minister Dr. Harshvardhan will move a motion for election to the Indian Council of Medical Research or ICAMR. And in the other legislative business in the Lok Sabha, following ministers will lay papers pertaining to their ministries on the table. Rajnath Singh for the Ministry of Defence. Narendra Singh Tomar for the Ministry of Rural Development. S. Jaishankar for the Ministry of External Affairs. Ramesh Pokhriyal Nishank for the Ministry of Human Resource Development. Arjun Munda for the Ministry of Tribal Affairs. Smriti Irani for the Ministry of Textiles and the Ministry of Women and Child Development. Dr. Harshvardhan for the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare and the Ministry of Science, Technology and the Ministry of Earth Sciences. Prakash Javadekar for the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting. Santosh Kumar Gangwar for the Ministry of Labour and Employment. Rao Inderjeet Singh for the Ministry of Planning. Shripad Yesso Naik for the Ministry of Ayush. Kiran Rijiju for the Ministry of Minority Affairs. Hardeep Singh Puri for the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. Prahlad Singh Patel for the Ministry of Tourism and the Ministry of Culture. Ashwini Kumar Chaubey for the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. Arjun Ram Meghwal for the Ministry of Heavy Industries and Public Enterprises. Babul Supriyo for the Ministry of Environment, Forests and Climate Change. Dhotre Sanjay Shamrao for the Ministry of Human Resource Development. Anurag Singh Thakur for the Ministry of Finance and the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. Ratan Lal Kataria for the Ministry of Jal Shakti. Debashri Chaudhary for the Ministry of Women and Child Development. And Union Minister Dr. Harshvardhan will make a statement regarding the status of implementation of the recommendations contained in the Standing Committee reports on health and family welfare on demands for grants 2018-19 pertaining to the Health Ministry. And Union Minister Anurag Singh Thakur will make a statement correcting the Hindi reply to Unstart question 2261 given on 2nd of December 2019 regarding demonetization. And also, members Prahlad Joshi and Adhir Ranjan Chaudhary will present the 13th report of the Business Advisory Committee, and Lok Sabha Secretary General Snehalata Srivastava will report a message from Rajya Sabha regarding association of one member from Rajya Sabha with the Committee on Public Accounts. And with that, we wrap up this edition today in Parliament. Do stay tuned. The proceedings of the upper house are going to commence in a short while from now. Thanks so much for watching.